Financial fair play has kind of thrown a whole wrench in the works for the Premier League this season. Everton have already been deducted 10 points. And if you're watching this, you probably know of the fact that Everton and Nottingham Forest have been charged with more breaches. Everton charged again, and Nottingham Forest have been charged for a first time. There is a lot to these kind of allegations. I'm going to go through everything, explain why I'm pissed off, even as a Liverpool fan. There's no reason I should be in support of Everton for anything here. But I find myself, between a rock and a hard place where I kind of have to say they don't deserve this. They are kind of being scapegoated for no reason, regardless of how bad their management has been. And, don't let me give any sort of indication that they deserve any sort of pity. But this is a really weird kind of enforcement of a policy that, in my opinion, was done to keep from, having the big clubs rise to the top and just dominate and steal all sorts of players from everywhere. So let's get into Everton's case first. So Everton were already fined 10 points, deducted 10 points over a breach of profit and sustainability regulation spending in FFP. So the Premier League statement read, Everton FC and Nottingham Forest FC have confirmed to the Premier League that they are in breach of the league's profitability and sustainability rules. This is a result of sustaining losses above the permitted thresholds for the assessment period ending season 2022-2023. In accordance with Premier League rules, both cases have now been referred to the chair of the judicial panel, who will appoint separate commissions to determine an appropriate sanction. Commissions are independent of the Premier League and member clubs. Proceedings are heard in private, with commission's final details made public on Premier League's website. The league will make no further comment until that time. So Everton's upset because they are saying that effectively this period of, because Everton and Nottingham Forest have come out with news that they've, had these breaches. They needed to submit their financials to the Premier League or, review effectively on December 31st, 2023. They went ahead and did that. And effectively there is like a 2-week period where they review everything. And it seems that Everton and Forest concluded, yeah, like our numbers are going to be below that threshold of, I believe it's 105 million in losses over 3 consecutive seasons. So, they went ahead and said, hey, this is what we, what we've concluded based on our, accounting. And the reason why Everton's upset is because effectively that first period where they got deducted 10 points for already included the 2019-2020 season, the 2020-2021 season, and the 2021-2022 season, and 2022-2023. So, actually, so 2019 to 2023 is the period that they're looking at here, effectively, for these current charges. But their previous charges had 2019 through 2022 as, the period where they were effectively charged for the bulk of their, financial wrongdoings and losses, let's say. Not financial wrongdoings, but more specifically, losses that they weren't allowed to accrue or go over. So effectively, I understand, if I understand this correctly, Everton is making the case, hey, we've already been charged for, basically that first 3-year window. We shouldn't be charged for these next ones either, because effectively it falls in the same period. I mean, I think from that perspective, it's fair because, I mean, hey, if you look at where the losses are going, it's not like Everton's out here, admittedly, poor mismanagement, signing, players that are subpar, this, that, the other, leading to less points, leading to less success, leading to less revenue. That's all worthy of discussion. But at the heart of it, Everton is, they're trying to build a new stadium. They're trying to increase their revenue. They're trying to grow in the league. And as opposed to necessarily being in a position where, they're abusing their finances to, bring in players that are well, like above the level of Everton, say. They're trying to invest in the club. And I think it's kind of messed up. Um, we'll get to City as well, because this does relate back to City. It relates back to Chelsea as well. And the clear distinction between all of these, effectively investigations and hearings for FFP violations. Um, so Forest also released a statement. Everton was a bit more kind of like uh, upset in their statement, a lot more strongly worded, basically saying that they were going to defend it. Forest, on the other hand, they were just like, hey, the club intends to continue to cooperate fully with the Premier League on this matter and are confident of a speedy and fair resolution. So, Forest, they had their kind of window of that 3-year period includes, I think, 1 or 2 seasons in the championship. So their whole situation's a bit more gray in terms of, did they, have these losses? Um, you know, in terms of, did they have these losses help them? Did taking on these losses provide them an unfair competitive advantage? And I guess that'll be the criteria really to determine if this will go through. You know, it's tough to say. It's gonna be one of those situations with Forest where obviously they spent a lot of money. They didn't sell a ton of players. They didn't generate a ton of revenue. They'll probably get a points deduction. I don't know. If with both clubs, them basically coming on saying, "Hey, yeah, we're guilty. Um, we're gonna try to cooperate." Everton's a bit more in a like gray area for that, because while they are guilty, they're also, they've admitted to the fact that they violated it, and they're basically just making the argument, hey, there's no reason to double dip for these, set seasons that you already, find us and, effectively found us to be at fault for. So I think I agree with Everton's sentiment on there. Um, it's fair to see um why Forest is also getting, the brunt end of the force here, because the spend that they've had has been crazy. But at the end of the day, you look at all of this and it makes you wonder, where are the charges for City? Why are City getting away with it? They haven't necessarily come out and given a date. The thought process is by Q3 2024, we'll have the preliminary, start of the proceedings in the trial, and then from there that'll get elongated through appeals and all that, and it'll probably extend all the way until maybe even past the 2026 World Cup, if we're being honest with how slow the legal system tends to work. Chelsea as well. Finally, just to touch on them before I start to really just rant on City. But Chelsea also probably going to get investigated. They've admitted to the fact that they've found some financial irregularities from the Roman Abramovich era. Once they came in, they looked at the books, they were a little confused. So, they were already fined 10 million for this breach in July by UEFA. The Premier League and English FA are continuing to investigate. This is a whole new precedent for the Premier League. And I just want to say that regardless of how this ends up going down, regardless of, say, if Everton gets another point deduction, if Forest, gets some sort of points deduction, if those clubs get relegated from the Premier League, if this possibly leads to some sort of situation where both clubs are in, a position where they're looking down the barrel of administration and ceasing to exist and ceasing to operate how they currently are as clubs. If all that happens and City still somehow manages to get away scot scot free, be squeaky clean after 115 charges, especially when Everton and Forest are admitting to it. They're taking the responsibility on their shoulders. They are being cooperative. They're being helpful, and they want to expedite this process, not hire 100 lawyers to defend it. Because if one charge for Everton led to 10 points, and if they say get another 10 points for, effectively minuscule charges that didn't give them much of an advantage, maybe they do get relegated one season. And while that is big, it sure as hell is a wild difference from being, towards the bottom and, say just mildly breaking the rules, and then having offshore payments to players and managers and having a whole infrastructure set up through, effectively violating the rules and financially doping your way to the top. I think that if this goes any other way, um, other than City being hit with the force of effectively, I mean, at 115 charges, even if we're doing 5 points a charge, that's like 575 points still. That's still a ton of points. That's effectively relegation to, League Two, maybe, if they're lucky. Um, yeah, so I mean, if Everton get hit with a lot of points deductions, some sort of situation arises as a result of this that leads to them having to stop operating and as the way they are, them getting relegated, um, then yeah, throw the book at City, or else the sport is dead. Simply put, the sport is dead. Because I know I don't live in England. The country has a whole different set of, laws and means as to which how they see fit to regulate the sport. But that's this whatever's going on in the Premier League, whatever has been going on for the last 15, 20 years or so, the commercialization has been great for the top, uh, but it is eating the sport alive. It is setting the sport afire, setting it ablaze, and letting it effectively die a slow and painful death. Because as much as I, as a Liverpool fan, hate Everton, I hate Jordan Pickford with every ounce of the fiber of my being. I hate him, like, genuinely. Loathe the man. Like, for that tackle on Van Dijk, to this day, till the day I die, I will not have one bit of respect or admiration for him. But I still concede that he is, he's the starting goalie for a club that has fans that admire the club, that support the club, and only want to see the club do good. And people that don't deserve this are those people, the people that are really just there to support their club, their city, their family, their community. And, Pickford is through and through a true Evertonian. He is a proper toffee, and you got to give him that. So if you look at it from this lens of, does Pickford, for example, deserve this, to go through this? Someone who's contended for England. Does any number of these players, does Sean Dyche deserve to have to fight tooth and nail to have to basically have any sort of chance to stay up? Is it worth it for either of these two clubs to even like put up a fight, because if you're going to get hit with 20 odd points, 15, 10 points, 10 points maybe. For Everton, it's like it could be 20. It could be more if they deem fit. We just don't know. And at the end of the day, the way I see it, FFP is failing. And with all my hate for, people like Pickford, for Everton, I don't want to see them go out like this. No one deserves this. If you broke the law, you broke the rules to such an extent, like some people have, like City have, then yes, absolutely. Go, go ahead. But if you're breaking the rules and you're still, failing, and the margins at which you break them are marginal effectively, and it's, you know, warranting more of a slap on the wrist rather than, I'll show this infographic on the screen, but it effectively shows the fact that the top flight point deductions since before this season started had only amounted to a total of like 17 points. So Everton's already gotten 10 on their own. You're going to give another 10 to Forest, maybe another 10 to Everton. That'll be 30 points. That'll be almost more than double the total amount of point deductions. So, in a way, this could be FFP finally showing some teeth. And maybe this is the start of the precedent. Maybe they have to deduce points from Everton and Forest and people who, do in fact break the rules and have violated FFP. Maybe they have to set the precedent with those clubs first to be able to basically say, hey, City, you guys have done this so many times that you're banned from the sport. And honestly, like, I would hate to see that happen for actual true City fans and for some of those players who are world class. But the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, the ownership has only brought in those players, has only set up that infrastructure, has only gotten the glitz, the glory, and the celebrations and congratulations that they have due to the fact that they have financially doped their way to get there. It took too long for FFP to really set in effect, to really have a leash on City before they went absolutely off the rails and basically manipulated their way to the top. Now it seems as if they're trying to get that leash back on, but first you got to round up some of the other dogs, in this case, Everton, Forest, maybe Chelsea, and you have to basically say, listen up, there's one bad apple, everybody's getting punished, and we're going to start from the bottom and work our way up. That's my thought process right now. If anything else, if the situation's effectively going to result in Everton and Forest getting deduced points like crazy, maybe Chelsea gets a slap on the wrist, some point deduction that they can tank, and then City gets off scot-free and, there's no kind of concern for them, then I think this will be an absolute failure of the sport. It'll show that FFP has never had any sort of meaningful merit. And yeah, I think it'll if City gets away and these smaller clubs get hurt, it'll just disillusion so many people. It'll take away the legitimacy of the sport, and it will effectively just kill football as we know it. Yeah, so definitely a bit of a kind of tough listen maybe today, just based on all the worrying news and such regarding all of this. Once again, we'll see how this plays out. I'll make sure to have updates on FFP, why it's, currently broken, why it doesn't seem like it has any teeth, and why it will only continue to enrich the most elite of clubs and keep the little men down. As always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing, like the video if you enjoyed, and comment down below your thoughts on Everton and Forest facing charges from the FA for FFP violations. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I'm Sideline Sedo. Peace.